Hi, my name is Rob Martinez with Texas Public Radio. We're here today with Hayden Pedigo for the Lonesome Lounge Sessions. Hayden, how are you doing today?
Doing good.
Thanks for taking time with us. I know that this is your first time in San Antonio.
Yeah. This I've only been here 2 hours, but first time here. Born and raised in Texas, but I've never been down here before.
Well, it's interesting because I've actually never been to your hometown of Amarillo. Could you describe that for our audience? What is Amarillo like these days?
So Amarillo is like the biggest town, just dead center of the Texas Panhandle, and it's kind of like, I always jokingly kind of say it's like the Detroit of the Texas Panhandle. It's like really gritty, industrial meets Western, weird landscape. It's a strange place. It's the weirdest place I've ever been. And I grew up there.
I look forward to one day visiting, but I understand now you're living in Lubbock.
Yeah, sadly, yeah.
Could you describe Lubbock? What is that like right now?
I guess if I had to describe Lubbock, I would say that Lubbock exists. It's a place. It has great musical history, though. One of the greatest Texas musicians, artists of all time, Terry Allen, is from Lubbock. So it's like a lot of great music came out of there. But the joke is, the reason why Lubbock had better music than Amarillo is it was so boring that people had to find things to do and a reason to get out of there.
Well, I really want to learn more about Terry Allen and your connection. But before we'll do that, I want to learn a little bit more about, I'd like to learn a little more about Amarillo. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about your journey running for city council.
Yeah.
So last year, Kid Candidate was premiered at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And has some really great reception. I've been kind of catching that, but I'm interested to knowing why you wanted to run. What was your reason, and why is engaging in local government important right now?
So a lot of people know that who followed the campaign. The reason why I ran for city council in Amarillo was kind of purely by accident. I made a satirical campaign video that was like a very goofy mock campaign video with a VHS effect on it. And a couple days after I put that out, the local news said, Amarillo man announces run for city council. And I kind of had this moment where I was like, there actually are a lot of things I was frustrated about with Amarillo, being born and raised there, pretty well acquainted with the place, and had a lot of frustrations with it, mainly because most people my age, artists, musicians, leave Amarillo. They want to get the hell out. And I basically was like, instead of this just being a joke, what if I use this for something meaningful? I didn't want it to just be like some goofy video and then I moved on with my life. So I decided to actually run for public office, and it was a very mind-blowing experience. It's like you learn quite a bit about your town when you run for public office.
Well, you've described it as one of the most incredible things you've ever done.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know, what was the reception like when you did run, and after kind of losing the election, why do you still think of it that way?
So I think when I ran, the reception was kind of weird because most of the voting population in Amarillo was like 40 and up. So the tough thing that I say is, if you're going to run for public office, starting off with a gag campaign video is not a good idea, just because it is a tough reputation to beat, and you have to try 10 times harder to convince people that you're serious versus the normal candidates who are doing it the way they do. I didn't take any donations. I just wanted to purely do it without spending any money. So I did any forum I could, talked with anyone I could. But it was an amazing experience, but also was in some ways like a very crushing experience, because you kind of see how the Amarillo's local government works, and it's kind of discouraging. It's discouraging to see how those candidates win. There's a lot of money spent on those campaigns, sometimes in the six figures. So when you're at the time 24-year-old running on no donations, it's like this really brutal David and Goliath situation, but like if Goliath like stomped David out into a pulp kind of deal.
Well, we're right before in a primary election, so I'd love to just hear your reason why for engaging in a local government. Why is that important, even more so now in 2022?
Well, I think engaging with your local government's more important because I think you can obviously see more immediate results with it, be it just voting alone, or if you want to run for public office, you can have a bigger impact. Because for me, I met a lot of younger people who told me I was the first time they had ever voted. Not like in a local election, like the first time they had voted. And I think that was the thing that was kind of mind-blowing. It's like, I didn't win, but ultimately I think I tried not to get too caught up on the idea of winning, because you miss out on the other victories that can come with just running. It's setting an example for younger people to attempt it. And the the craziest thing is you can run for public office in Amarillo. I'm sure it's the same in a lot of places. If you're 17 years old, as long as you're 18 on the day you're sworn in. So it's like a literal like high school student could run for mayor or city council. And I think that's important for kids to see that they can do it. You might not win, but still it's a big statement just to run.
Absolutely. So, people know you from Kid Candidate. They know of your journey running for city council. They know about your music. Mm-hmm. But I think it might also be safe to say that a lot of people know you from like your ensembles and the memes of you online. So could you describe a little bit about that personality that you've created online with your ensembles and your outfits?
Yeah, so I think the big thing I took from Terry Allen is the idea that you're not just one thing. You're not a musician. You're not an artist. You're not that. Terry Allen is Terry Allen. It's this like big thing that goes way beyond just his music. And I was really into that idea of like something being comedy and something being fun. And when you make like solo guitar music, it can be such a serious genre. I want it to be fun and goofier, and I like to do dumb things. It's not always serious. So it's just like I like to be as many things as I can,
So, I would think it might be safe to say that a lot of people have heard your music, but probably a lot more people have seen the memes of you online.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is I meet different people that know me for different things, be it the music or they just saw a gag photo of me online wearing some dumb outfit. So it's kind of fun that people know me for different things. I prefer that.
So you mentioned Terry Allen. What is your connection? Because he's a legendary artist.
Yeah.
You're on your way to become one yourself, a legendary Texas artist. What is the connection, man? How do you know each other?
So when I was probably 16 years old at the Amarillo Public Library, you could rent CDs. And I remember renting Lubbock on Everything, the CD, just because of the cover. I didn't know what the music was. And on the back, there was a song called Amarillo Highway. And I went home and listened to that album. It blew my mind. And then when I was 22, I was working on a record called Greetings from Amarillo. I had reached out to Terry through email and basically said, I would love if you could be on my record. Basically, record, like, I want you to leave a voicemail about Amarillo on my phone that ends the record. So he wrote this original piece called Thoughts on Greetings from Amarillo. That was him closing out the album. So for me, it was like kind of insane from like getting the CD at 16 to like Terry ending the record. And it's almost like a friend joke. He said it's like a rap album because it's like a voicemail and it's Terry Allen. And it's just like the first time I heard it, it just kind of like broke my brain. It was just kind of like, whoa, that's like insane that that's him. And then throughout the years, I've always bugged him. I feel, I feel like the annoying kid that's like bugging him. But for my most recent record, he wrote the foreword to it, which was huge. Like it's like a cosign from God. It's like, it's like, it blew my mind. It was just incredible. He's a very nice person, very funny person. We've never met in person. We've only talked on the phone or through email. So it's like I want to meet him one day,
Well, it is pretty incredible to think about using the internet as a way to connect with these legends or just people in general. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how you've used the internet really throughout your career being a musician. You once mentioned that the internet has really been a game changer for you. And I'd like for you to elaborate on that. What is it like to be a musician in 2022 and using a platform that you have?
So doing my music online the way I did from the start was incredible for me. It's like when I started to put my music out, I remember seeing the rap group Odd Future that Tyler, the Creator, was in, and seeing these kids where it's like, oh, that like they were using the internet to do everything. It was just kind of like you could be in the middle of nowhere, and if you had an internet connection and a Gmail, you could really do anything. And I had that similar ethos of like, I'm in Amarillo, no one knows who I am at all. Let's just see how much crazy stuff I can do just through reaching out and emailing people. And that was the thing, was I would just send out tons of emails to any person I wanted to work with, any hero. And surprisingly, it's like you get blown away how many people are open to things when you reach out and you say like, hey, you're a hero of mine, I'd love to work with you. And I was a nobody. Like I was an 18, 19-year-old kid, nobody, and was like able to work with like European avant-garde giants. And that was all just through the internet. And that's been the big thing throughout my career, is like, this is the first time I've ever toured. I've never been on tour before. And it's like, I signed with a label like Mexican Summer before I'd ever done a single tour. And that's kind of like such a big thing in the internet age, is it kind of changed how it worked. Because forever people would tell me, you're not going to have a career if you don't tour. No one's going to know who you are. And I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'll just see what happens. Because back then I was working like bank jobs and just doing this thing online. It was like this whole separate deal. But yeah, the internet's incredible. It's a mess and like terrifying, but it is incredible what you can use it for.
So you've connected with Mexican Summer. They're based in New York and Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
So yourself, you're in Amarillo, but got connected through Mexican Summer, and this is your first official tour for Letting Go.
Yeah. And the funny thing, the deal with Mexican Summer was I had just moved to Lubbock, and I was like making a record. I didn't even know what label it was going to be on. I was just making an album going like, I hope a label wants this. We'll see what happens. And then once it was done, I just started like on Instagram. I had no connection with Mexican Summer. I had no email. I had no way to talk to them. So I would go on Instagram and I found everyone I knew that was like associated with that label that followed me. And I would write them a message going, hey, I just finished a record. Could you like write them a letter of recommendation for me? And I just did that with like a lot of different people, and it resulted in a meeting with them and went really well. And at the time I was working in the office at a high school. And the day I got the contract with Mexican Summer, I like signed it in the copier room at a high school I was working at. So it was kind of a weird, very internet experience of like in the copy room at a school that you're working at, signing a record contract with the label you've always loved. That's, in a place you've never been. Because at the time I had never even been to New York.
Wow. It really is an incredible tool, the internet, for us musicians now. I'd love for you to also share another story of your connection with Gucci.
Yeah, so that's also the internet. And that's, again, people that I had zero connection with at all. Because on my Instagram, like, I don't have like a massive following on there. And I would make these goofy posts saying that, like, I would pretend I was working with Gucci. I would make posts saying, huge news, just was in the Gucci influencers campaign. Just like a troll post, and I would tag them in it every time. And everyone in the comments would be like, Gucci, you're really screwing up not working with this guy. And then last October on Instagram, you have the message request folder. I had a message in there, and it was a guy from an unverified account with only 2,000 followers. He said, hi, Hayden, I'm doing the talent procurement for the Gucci show in Los Angeles in 2 weeks. Who do I need to talk to? And I thought somebody was messing with me, so I was like, this is like an Instagram DM, like one of those scams where someone's like, we want to work with you. So I gave him the email of one of the people that works at Mexican Summer. They emailed back and they're like, this seems fishy. We don't know if it's real. We'll get back to you. We sent it to the head guy, Keith, at Mexican Summer. Next day, my phone goes off and Keith said, hey, dude, that message is real. And I was like, oh, legit. So it was kind of like from there, they flew me out to L.A. And the very first meeting I ever had was with them, the creative director of Gucci. And I asked them, how did y'all find me? And they said, we just saw your Instagram and thought you were fun and creative. And that was it. So it was just purely through Instagram.
That's pretty incredible, man. That's an incredible story. I'd love to hear from you about, you've had some really cool experiences using the internet. How do you foresee the internet being a tool for the future, for musicians in the future? How do you see that relationship?
I mean, it's kind of hard to gauge like the future of the internet with musicians because it's weird to see like how much it's changed. Like I remember like before I was even really making music, MySpace was like the tool musicians use. I've always had friends say that like booking tours through MySpace was awesome. Like apparently MySpace was great for that Facebook didn't have. And it's like I started off on Facebook and then I'm not even on Facebook anymore. And then you're on Instagram and it's like, who knows like where it's going to end up. I mean, the internet is weirdly seeming like a grim place right now, so it's kind of hard to predict like a hopeful future of the internet in any capacity. It's just kind of like being thankful for like what it is doing right, like while you have it.
Sure. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit more about this this project, Letting Go. Mm-hmm. So this is a little bit different. You described this as your first kind of just a guitar album, right? And one thing that really moved me, that kind of resonated with me as a creative person myself, you described that your work is really an opportunity to kind of like zone out, but really think about yourself creatively, the things that you want to achieve, and have the music kind of be there to help. And I'd love to just kind of hear about where your headspace was in the, when you were creating Letting Go.
So Letting Go to me was like, up until this point, like I wanted to make something that I felt extremely proud of, because to be honest, I struggle with guitar. I'm not like a natural on guitar. It's like a fight. Every time I play it, I struggle. And I just kind of wanted to battle this thing. I'd always had these issues of not feeling confident in my guitar playing. And it was just like, I wanted to wrangle an album of guitar playing. It's like wrangling like this wild horse. It's like the guitar just I don't have a friendly relationship with that instrument. So it was like a battle to make that record. And I was also just going through a lot of like vulnerable times writing those songs just because of a multitude of reasons. I had just moved. I grew up in Amarillo. I'd never lived anywhere else. And just moving 2 hours away to Lubbock was weird. You know, it's just like this place that's kind of close to your hometown but feels nothing like it. You don't know anyone there. Obviously, COVID was going on, so you're just kind of like isolated. So I just started writing, and it ended up being like this really pure record that I was really proud of, and the songs mean a lot to me. I think there's this theme of hope in the music, and even if you look at the cover art, there's this element of comedy meets tragedy meets like it's like irony meets the most severe end of like being earnest. It's like this weird clash of like when you're joking but also extremely earnest. And I don't know, that's kind of like what I was going for when I made the record.
You know, for me, it is something that I think about whenever I'm trying to do something creative. It does give me in a right headspace to do that. And I'd love to learn about what you listen to get you in that headspace. What kind of things are you listening to now to help you be more creative?
So the big thing, like when I was making Even Letting Go, the record that I probably listened to the most was a record by Earl Sweatshirt called Some Rap Songs. And the reason why I listened to it was I'm a very all over the place person. It's hard for me to focus. I work in like very short bursts. I can't focus on things for a long time. And I like that his record was 24 minutes. Each song is like less than 2 minutes. And it's just this concise statement where he says exactly what he needed to say. The instrumentals do exactly what they need to do. It's brief, direct, and gone. And that was my idea was, you know, I need to do the same thing he was doing where it's just play what you need to play, say what you need to say, get it done, get out of there, end of story. And that's what I was trying to do with the record. So that album was like what I would listen to get that inspiration I needed. And it was like the two biggest influences on the record were Earl Sweatshirt and Harmony Korine, the director, because he's like kind of my ultimate ethos for everything I do, weirdly. It's like he has influenced everything I do more than any musician, you know, outside of like John Fahey. It's like John Fahey and Harmony Korine were like what I wanted to blend to do what I did, you know.
So this sounds like the next collab that I need to see or hear as a part of, you and Harmony Korine and maybe Earl Sweatshirt. That sounds like an incredible team there.
That would be a weird trio. I'm not sure what we would do as a trio, but I've tried to work with Harmony before. He's like an infamously hard guy to get a hold of, even by internet standards. The guy has no social media. He has no website. And 3 years ago, there was these billboards that I had put up in Amarillo that said, Harmony Korine, please come to Amarillo, on these two billboards. And a few weeks later, a representative of his reached out to me, asked for my phone number, and then a couple days later, I got a call from a blocked number. And I was in the shower, so I didn't answer it. And then it called again, so I turned the water off and picked up the phone. I was like, hello? And the person was like, what's up? I was like, nothing much. Who is this? He's like, it's Harmony. And then I was like, oh, and he was like, my buddy sent me that billboard. That's super cool. A lot of friends have sent it. Why should I come to Amarillo? Wow. And we talked for like 30 minutes, and he said, I'm heading down to Marfa in the next few months. I would like to like stop by if I can. And then COVID happened, and I've never talked to him again. I have no way to get a hold of him. So maybe one day it'll happen.
Well, Hayden, this has been incredible. I'd love to just end on hearing what's next for you, man. What do you have planned for this future?
I have no idea.
Just taking 2022 as it comes, huh?
Yeah. I never know what's gonna happen. Like I never really plan. It just happens.
Well, we're so grateful that you're here today and look forward to the set, man. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. This next one's called Rain Like Hell. I'm sorry I keep announcing the titles each one, you know. Like sometimes with instrumental music, I know the titles, you know, you could title it whatever. It could be like anything, but I'm just letting y'all know what the titles are, just in case y'all want to know, you know. Thank you all again for coming out. This is awesome. This is... I was going to joke, if he wouldn't have said that I was from Amarillo, I was going to joke that this was my first time in Texas, and that's incredible. But I was thinking about it. I was born and raised in Amarillo, Texas, and I currently live in Lubbock, Texas, sadly. And it's weird how we were joking earlier. We were saying that Texas is such a big state, and I was saying, well, Texas is really such a small country that you can grow up in Amarillo, and this is my first time in San Antonio, and I'm 27, you know, which is kind of crazy. But what a first time to be here, you know. Thank you all so much.
Bye.